up to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life.
It's Drewski McGillicuddy's Night of the Living Dead movie review. Hey everybody, it's Drewski McGillicuddy, and the time has come for me to take matters into my own hands and review Night of the Living Dead. Now before I get started with the review, I just want to mention that this is one of those movies that you can't wait your entire adult life to watch. I feel sorry for Lee because he's not going to get to watch this movie with the eyes of a child. The first time I saw this movie, I was about 7 or 8 years old. I was in either first or second grade. And I went over to a friend's house, and this happened to be on TV. And from the opening title card, just that music and the sense of dread, I was glued to the screen. And that has to be where my true love of horror started, was with Night of the Living Dead in first or second grade. Now, sure, I had watched the Universal monster movies. I enjoyed those, watching those with my father. But Night of the Living Dead might be my first horror memory. I mean, I know I've gone back and forth with it a long time, but watching it again, this is my first horror memory. That's why it was so shocking to me to find out that Lee McCoy from Drum Dums hasn't seen it. So, all I can do is keep harassing him until he goes ahead and watches it. Hopefully he'll thank me for it. Hopefully he hasn't waited too long. I mean, I'm sure I just watched it and it still holds up for me. Now some of the acting is a little hokey, like from the sheriff and like some of the townspeople and stuff like that. But a lot of the people in this movie, I don't think they were professional actors. I think they were just people from the town that they got and said, "Hey, here's $20. You want to be in a movie?" Because before Night of the Living Dead, before this movie happened, George Romero was in school and he was working on commercials, like Colgate commercials or something. And then one day he decided he was going to drop out of school and just go try to make a movie on his own with a couple of buddies, and this is what they came up with, and it's a fucking masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece. So we start out with Johnny and Barbara going to visit their father's grave by order of their mother, because their mother can't go, but she wants them to go so that they remember him, even though they don't even remember what he looks like. But they go every year. It's a 6-hour round trip, and it takes 5 minutes to put the wreath on the grave. And Johnny starts talking to Barbara about how she used to be so scared back when she was a girl there. And then that's where you get the iconic, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." And then they see the guy creeping along in the background, and he starts joking, saying, "Look, he's coming to get you now." And sure enough, it's our first ghoul, and he is one of the most iconic zombies in zombie film history, if you ask me. I mean, if I had to rank all the zombies in all the zombie movies, he would definitely be probably in the top 3. Maybe I'll do that sometime. Who knows? Anyway, so Johnny wrestles the ghoul, because they never call them zombies in this movie. You'll notice that when you watch it. But yeah, he wrestles the ghoul to the ground, and he falls, hits his head on a tombstone, or what did you call it? A tombstone? Headstone? Headstone. And yeah, I guess he's dead now, which it's funny because basically he destroyed his brain. But if you pay attention, he comes back later towards the end of the movie, and he's a zombie. But it's like, how you gonna come back from the dead? I don't want to pick this movie apart, but it's just something I noticed. Because there's other weird things I noticed. How I feel like they might recycle zombies in this and just put them in different clothes.
They do.
But yeah, it was low budget. They did what they could. They used chocolate syrup as blood. Anyway, back to the opening sequence. The ghoul gets up, starts chasing Barbara. She jumps in the car, and this is where you see the ghoul's have, somewhat of a personality. They still remember how to use tools from their previous life. So he picks up a brick, starts throwing the window. She throws the car into neutral, takes off the emergency brake, and she rolls the hell on out of there. Except the car sideswipes a tree. I don't want to have to sit here and tell everybody everything. I mean, if you've seen the movie, you know. So she's running. She stumbles upon the farmhouse, and that leads to one of my favorite scenes in the movie, when first she sees all the animal heads, but then she goes to go upstairs, and there's a half-eaten corpse. And that shot of that face is probably one of my favorite scenes ever put on a screen. I mean, I got it tattooed for life. I love it. Actually, this is from where's that? The Reanimated one, where they have a bunch of artist renderings. It's like Robot Chicken. It's like Night of the Living Dead on acid, basically, is what it is. Anyway, so she's in a farmhouse, she's exploring, finds the body, and she starts going into shock. And then that's when we meet Ben. Ben drives a truck in, and then there is a scene where Ben is describing to Barbara what happened to him, how he got there. And then that scene is specifically referenced in Zack Snyder's 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake. And here's the scene right here, or right here, wherever I'm putting it. Maybe I'll cover the whole screen, I don't know. But if you just watch, you can see, because Ben was describing that he was going towards the gas station, and there was a truck being chased by a bunch of those things, and he plows through the gas station, through the guardrail, and a big explosion happens. And I believe that this is the exact same thing that Ben was referring to, because in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, it starts out the night before. So I don't know, whatever the fuck, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so we meet Ben, and Ben is definitely the strongest character in this movie. He's the best actor. Dwayne Jones, I believe his name is. And I don't really know if he was ever in anything else, but he's definitely very good in this role, because, Barbara's going into shock. He's asking her questions. He doesn't realize she doesn't live there, and she's not talking to him. And he tries to snap her out of it, but she ain't coming out of it. And then later on, he finds the radio, and that's another one of my favorite parts of the movie, is just while he's going around boarding up the windows, the radio broadcast that's playing, it's talking about, the mass murder taking place all over the world and nobody knows what's going on. And then slowly you start getting more and more information, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Then you find out that they're eating the flesh of their victims. And so, so you get that part. Is that exposition?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you get to visualize. I got imagination. I visualize all the stuff they're talking about. Now, later on, he's got all the windows boarded up, and Barbara starts freaking out, talking about they got to go get Johnny. Is that what happens when she slaps him? And then he gives her a knuckle sandwich. Just bam, bitch! And, she knocks her out, and then he goes and takes her shoes off, lays her on the couch. But, bitch was being crazy. And that's the thing I'm afraid, might bother Lee when he finally does watch this, is Barbara's character can get slightly annoying. But then again, I mean, that's kind of how women were back then. I get highly incompetent, I guess. What? I mean, that's how it is in the old movies. They can't fend for themselves. I'm not the one that wrote the movie. I didn't do it, okay? That's just what I'm seeing. I'm telling you what I'm seeing. Anyway, so come to find out, there's people in the basement the whole time. And it's you got Judy, you got, what was it, Tommy? And then you got Karen. She's oh my God, Cooper, Harry Cooper. Please. Harry Cooper is one of the I hate this son of a bitch. Like, he's one of the most hated characters. Like, ask anybody that watches Night of the Living Dead who their least favorite character. I mean, obviously he's written to be the least favorite character, but if you notice his wife, Helen, she's really hot. She's really out of this little ball-head, pickle-dick bastard fucking league, man. I mean, just look, what the fuck? I mean, come on now. I mean, I can suspend my disbelief for like the zombies and stuff, but this ain't flying with me. All right. Anyway,
It had to be an arranged marriage.
shut up. Anyway, so they come up and Cooper starts bitching about how you better come downstairs. It's the safest place. It's the strongest place. And Ben ain't having none of that. Ben says, the safest place is up here. That way we can see where they're going. And if they, get in, they can't back us into a corner because the basement's a death trap. But anyway, so Judy and Tom come upstairs, and then Cooper goes back downstairs, and Helen finds out that there's a radio upstairs, and what the hell are we doing down here? And he's just a son of a bitch. He wants to be right about everything, even though he's out of his fucking mind. But eventually they come, and he thinks they're begging to be let back downstairs. And turns out they found a TV, and this is another one of my favorite parts. When they discover the TV news broadcast, that's when they tell you that the dead are returning to life and attacking the living. And it's one of my favorite scenes. Like, it's just so real. Like, a lot of horror movies, they don't have the realness feeling to them. But that's what I love so much about Romero's work. Like, you can see this happening. Like, it happens just how you would assume that it would happen in real life. Now, keep in mind, this was the 60s, but if something like this happened nowadays, sure, people have their cell phone, but you could always use the excuse if they're in a farmhouse that there's no signal. And, you'd be stuck in the exact same situation. Oh, well, take the cell phones out of the equation, and then you're right back where you were in the 60s. You got a car that's out of gas, you don't know where you are, you're being surrounded by ghouls, and you'd have no way out. And that's what's so scary about this movie. Like, if this were to ever happen, this is the most, like, they've made hundreds of zombie movies, and they all fucking suck, okay? I've seen the majority of them, and the majority of them fucking suck. Especially every single remake of Night of the Living Dead except for the 1990 version. Tom Savini did a fucking outstanding job, and maybe after the series, that'll be my ending video. I'll go ahead and review that one, because there's no reason that movie should have been as good as it was. I go back and forth with it being better than the original, but just because of the fact that the original was made on literally a shoestring budget, and just the effect it had back then. Like, you got to put yourself in those shoes, especially if you're not watching it with child's eyes like I did. You got to think you're 40-something and or however old you might be. If you haven't seen this movie and you're watching it now, it's not going to have the impact that it would have had on a child. Or, Sarah, first time she watched it, she was, 10 years old? 13 in an old farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere. She was basically in the movie, watching the movie. Imagine how scary that was. Because, once they get together, that's when all hell starts breaking loose. They tried to board up the windows, and then they're trying to get out to the gas pump. That doesn't go as planned. Just this movie is so bleak, really, if you think about it. I don't want to really go into spoilers, just in case somebody watching this might not have seen it before. But this has one of the most bleak endings that it's a gut punch. It's a punch to the soul, the ending of this movie, and it's so effective. It really is. Like, every time I watch it, it still gets me every time I watch it. And I can only hope that it'll get you if you've never seen it before. So if you haven't seen it before, please do whatever you have to do. The criteria, anyway, this Blu-ray copy right here absolutely sucks. Like, it looks like somebody filmed it off of an old VHS copy. This one's okay, but there's still, like, tears in the film. Now, this right here, this is the 40th anniversary edition. This is probably the best quality out of all of them. When I watched it on the Blu-ray because the sound quality is amazing. But the 40th anniversary edition, it's got the special features. It's got, what the hell is it called? Something for the fire. and they talk about the making of and all the stuff that goes behind the scene, because this movie's deep. This ain't just some stupid fucking zombie movie. This is the zombie movie that started it all. I mean, there's nothing stupid about this movie other than the fact that Barbara, you know, I felt like, I mean, because there's this one scene where she's comatose, and then Helen is being attacked by the window, and Barbara goes, well, I'm gonna go help her, and then, you know, all for naught. Nope, not to spoil it, but, you know, watching it's different from hearing me, you know, slightly talk about it. I'm just kind of talking about it. But I'm gonna have to give the original Night of the Living Dead a 9.5. All right, I want to give it a 10, but just Barbara does bug me. She does bug me. But yeah, I mean, this is it's. If it wasn't for this movie, you wouldn't have The Walking Dead. You wouldn't have a lot of stuff. You wouldn't have hundreds of fucking copycats out there. And that's the other thing that sucks, is the copyright on this movie. Oh, what the hell?
They forgot to transfer it
They
from
forgot to
one cover page to the next.
See, there's my secretary. See, she knows. So yeah, the copyright got fucked up basically, and so they don't, like, George missed out on a lot of money for I can't fucking talk. Distribution. So that's why Night of the Living Dead is in every single horror pack since they started compiling horror packs together. Okay, that's why I have so many copies. I like all the different copies for the different artwork. But anyway, yeah. So have you seen Night of the Living Dead? Do you love it as much as I do? Do you give it a 10 out of 10? Does Barbara not bother you? Have you never seen this movie and you're curious, but you're just too scared because what's to be scared of? Just come on, you watch the goddamn movie. Just watch it! Because your review probably way better than this one. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Oh yeah, like the video, subscribe, all that bullshit.
They're coming right for us. George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.